Since black men like to compare themselves to black women, I'm going to do the same this time. And I'm going to compare the leadership and respect that black women receive in society compared to how black men are treated and the position that black men see themselves. And it's not good. This panel gives their take on the position of black men in society and describes them as grown men with the mentality of babies and points to racism as the cause. And they use Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's teachings to back them up. Even though black women are raised in the same environment as black men, they don't victimize themselves with racism in the same way as black men.
There's this psychologist, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She has a theory about the black man in America. She says that because of the system of racism, the black man in this country has come to think of himself as a baby, a not yet fully formed being who realizes his full potential. To support her claim, she offers the following. 1. What does a black man call his woman? Mama. 2. What does a black man call his closest friends? His homeboys. And finally, what does a black man call his place of residence? His crib.
In the system of racism, white supremacy, there are 5 people categories. Man, woman, boy, girl, baby. Who is the man? I said, here comes the man, you all. Why are you all so quiet?
The man, white man.
The man is the white man. Any other male has 4 choices. Black men fought historically, don't call me no boy. Is that right? The white supremacists say, okay, you got 3 choices. Woman, girl, or baby. It used to be that woman and girl were out. Baby was in. How many black ladies have called the black man that they are highly familiar with baby? Y'all better tell me. See, lying to yourself. How about that? You read the book. How many gentlemen have called the lady that they're familiar with mama? Hey mama, can I ride with you? Let's get a witness. How many gentlemen have called the place where they sleep a crib? Are you following me?
Still do.
Man who calls himself baby calls the woman he sleeps with mama. Calls the place where he sleeps a crib. Will call himself what? A motherfucker. Are you all with me?
Straightforward question. Can black males become black men under the system of white supremacy?
Yeah, until a white man walk in the room.
Explain.
I mean, so can a black male be a man under the system of white supremacy? Well, you know, manhood, speaking in terms of anthropology, culture, society, things of that nature, is a component of the 3 Ps. PC talks about this a lot too. So a black man could fulfill the roles of those three P's, and could garner a level of respect and have a level of authority uh, in a room or in an environment, in a social situation or social setting, and have be viewed as the representative of fully formed masculine energy until a white man walks in the room.
Do these men know how pathetic this sounds? So, who in this room can black men have authority over? Until, of course, a white man enters the room. And in case you didn't hear it the first time, just count the number of times this same phrase is spoken throughout this conversation, and keep in mind that these are the men who want women to submit to them.
Hmm.
At which point, it's not even so much that a black man can't have that space, so much as it's that a lot of black men nowadays would give up that role. They would relinquish it voluntarily and willingly to the white man that walks in that room. Now, again, this depends on the space and the man, but we're speaking in general terms. Um, if you're in a business meeting or something like that, I've seen this happen numerous times where you're in a business meeting or even at a business gathering. Um, and white men who typically dominate those spaces, even if the black men in those spaces are more successful than the white men, they will relinquish a level of authority to the white men entering those spaces. Again, I've seen that happen numerous times.
These are the same black men who come home to you and try to dominate you and tell you that they are the leaders and you should follow them, while all day on the job they're submitting to white men. And like this man said, he voluntarily gives up his authority when a white man enters the room.
When it comes to academics or in intellectual pursuits, um, even in terms of creative pursuits, when we look at how we'll relinquish creative control for somebody that has more business acumen, and I'm trying to generalize the sentiment that's involved in sports and entertainment, music, and stuff like that, how a lot of us will defer to white managers or white corporations that own entertainment industries like the music companies or the production companies or blah 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 blah.
Even though we know this to be true, hearing this black man admit that they are conquered, they cannot manage their position as artists or athletes, and they give up their authority over their own lives by looking to the white man to make decisions for them. This is very scary because isn't that just one step above being enslaved?
So, can a black man be a man under the system of white supremacy? Yes, until a white man enters the room.
Hmm.
But can a black
Hmm.
man be a man in the black community regardless? Yes. I think that's a yes too. Go ahead.
So we're talking about hierarchies,
Yes.
because the only way a black man will lose his place as a man in the room when a white man comes in is everybody has to already know and understand that white men are the man. It's understood.
Well,
And
I
it's
mean,
understood.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, it's a part of that black tax slash white credit we talked about last week. That applies to everything, including the hierarchy of where you're positioned in a room full of people. Um, if a white person walks in the room, they're already giving credit just for being in the room. A black person that's in that room has to prove that they deserve to be there. A white person sitting at the table is a credit to everybody else at the table automatically. A black person at that table has to prove that they deserve to be at that table. Otherwise, they are a discredit to themselves and to everybody else at that table.
Dear black women, were you aware that their defeatist mentality was at this level? If he knows this, then why don't they try to improve their position instead of simply accepting it as this is just how it is. This is the mentality that has kept black people spiraling downward ever since we entered this country.
Again, it all ties into me.
Gotcha. I mean, I think, like you said, the white credit more so. I'm talking more so of the white credit than the black tax. White people have, I would say, beat it into us literally and figuratively and mentally, emotionally, psychologically. They've beat their dominance into us. Um, when we have terms, because we have the term, and like Dr. Wilson talked about, if you look at that whole video, she talked about it. We literally called white people the man. It was part of the culture, part of the black exploitation movies and the songs and stuff. Like the white man was literally called the man because it was literally beat into us. We talk about the epigenetics that comes into play in this. We have the biological memory of being literally physically oppressed, but we also have the memory of being psychologically, mentally, spiritually oppressed by the white man as well. So same to you, PC. Can a black male become a black man under the system of white supremacy?
No.
PC is Professor Carl Tone Jones, the man at the bottom of the screen. And yes, he is a professor. And yes, all three of these black men are educated and considered to be the example of who black women should choose to be married to and to be the father of their children.
Oh,
Straightforward.
you want me to elaborate? Okay. So, no, because, and this is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to this whole idea about patriarchy and
Hmm.
why black men can never be patriarchs. This system of patriarchy only allows for one group of men to be established as the masculine frame, to be established as the men of said tribe, of said country, of said nation. So this is the white man's nation. The institutions, the system of white supremacy that we currently reside under, there's only room for one man. We can wear his shoes, but as Patrick said, when he walked into the room, we got to get out those shoes because he's going to be wearing them. It's not like he's saying, "Oh, you have a pair of shoes and I'm going to wear some too." No, Negro, get out of my damn shoes. You know your place, you know your role, and we do acquiesce to white folk. We're not even just white men, white women too, because they share in that patriarchal power over us. And you know, I always jot down a few things. So, just for instance, when you want to talk about being a man and being men, that means you have to declare that. During, you know, the end of the Civil War, although black folk fought for freedom, you never hear that when you talk about Juneteenth is coming up. You never hear that black people fought for freedom. You hear that freedom was granted to black people by their former owners. That means we needed their permission to be free.
He is correct on this point. White people had to literally kick us off their plantation. Black men only fought in the Civil War because they had to, but it was not their idea to fight for their freedom. Black men will put their lives on the line only when white men instruct them to do so. And in case you don't know, slavery is still legal in this country and governed by the 13th Amendment, which means that if you're convicted of a crime, you're considered a slave. And it's not surprising that we were legally enslaved for over 400 years.
See, when you have power, you make those determinations, and that's what determines the men of your said tribe, your nation, your village, your country, so forth and so on. And we don't have that. And like you juxtapose that with War of Independence that was fought by this country in the 1700s. They wrote a Declaration of Independence. They signed their name on that document knowing that it was treason to the crown of Great Britain, knowing that they literally signed their death warrant on it. And that Patrick Henry, one of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, said, "Give me liberty or death." Those are statements of men. And I'm not trying to say that white men are the only men. What I'm saying is we haven't had a Declaration of Independence for black people in this country. It's a power dynamic that determines whether or not we can be men. And unfortunately, we have been rendered powerless by this system, and then we refuse to do the things that will gain us power, because many of us feel as though I rather stand alone and deal with the responsibilities that will come with a liberated mindset and a liberated way of moving, because you have to be responsible for yourself independently of the things you get from this society. A lot of us have said, well, let's just acquiesce.
He said a lot, but we needed to hear this. He said that white men declared that they were willing to die if they didn't get liberty. Black men have no declaration for themselves or their people, and some black women will say that they have a good man and a good father to their children. But when you think about what this man just said, that means that your black man is just as powerless when it comes to how they interact with white men, and you need to get into those facts.
Because we can still have fun over here. We can still watch the ball game over here. We can still chase tail over here. We can still, go to the man and beg for and request jobs, employment. We're not even talking about, and when we build our own stuff, we're still worried about the man coming in and taking it from us. See, we're not even planning for the fact that, if you want peace, you have to be willing to wage war to get it. We want peace, but not by any means necessary. And if that means shaving off our testicles and being being stags up in here, then that's what we'll be. But as of right now, we can't. We haven't accepted that.
Their mentality is living under subjugation to white people is okay, as long as they can have a little freedom to do those things that white people allow them to do. And these non-productive little freedoms is enough for black men. But when black women declare that we want more, we're labeled as masculine.
Could someone please explain this to me? What is it with black liberal women, and when they get into a position of power, they abuse it?
What an interesting dynamic, where black women are positioning themselves to be the authority figures over white men, while black men are willingly bowing down and acquiescing to the authority of white men.
Look, I'm going to tell you honestly, in my 43 years on this earth, I have had a lot of bosses. And one thing I'm going to tell you is the worst bosses I ever had, not all of them were this way, but they were usually black women in power. And I could name about 5 of them that I had. It's like once they got into power, boom. It was like they thought their shit didn't stink. They walked on water. And they had no problem abusing people and using their position of power for their own gain. Not all of them. I had some really good black women who were my bosses. A couple of good ones. But unfortunately, I had more often than not. And I tell you what, throughout my time in the military, one of the key things you would hear is somebody would complain about their boss, and you'd hear it's a female, and you'd hear how they're being treated and how they're treating people. The next question will, are they black? Yes. Well, there you go. You can call me a racist all you want. I'm just calling a spade a spade.
His confession actually proves that black women are not afraid to go into any and every aspect of this society and to dominate when we get there. That power is to be honored. This shows the total opposite of how black men move in spaces where white men rule and dominate. Of course, this is only one man's opinion, but he speaks on black women in politics, his experience with black women in the military, and he also mentions his wife's experience with black women on her job. So black women command a different level of respect from white women and white men.
Okay, I do not know what is up with that, but it's a reality. It's sad because I don't think it's the majority, but it seems to be enough that it's very visible. And, my wife said the same thing with her bosses. I knew plenty of people. I had a Hispanic airman who was my favorite troop. She went into a meeting with our boss one time, who was a black woman. She came out of it and she goes, I want to work just with you. Do not want to deal with her unless I absolutely have to. Because I was her direct supervisor. She's like, I don't want to deal with that woman. She's like, that woman is all about power hungry shit. So I was like, yeah, I know. Now, what are you going to do? It's just, sorry, you can get mad at me all you want, but that's my experience, and a lot of other people I know's experiences, and apparently seems to be a trend in politics now. Only it's you're not supposed to say anything about it because otherwise you're racist. Well, no, it's not racist to call out if you're corrupt and abusing power. Okay, I've seen it done. All right, I've seen people abuse power, but I ain't never seen it to the degree I've seen it with black women in power. I'm just saying. That's my 43 years experience.
Just imagine where the black community would be if black men were brave enough to confront their imaginary fears. The three men on this panel are an example of most black men, and that includes this country and in countries around the world. This is a sad dynamic that black women must come to grips with, and fast. As long as black men can enjoy the basic life that white men allow them to have, enjoying sports, a low-paying job, and freedom to chase women, black men will acquiesce to their power structure. They'll bow down to the white man and the white woman, and they'll try to get the black woman in line by getting her to be submissive. But what does all this say about black women who allow themselves to be manipulated into submission by the lowest group of men? Because even if these men have money, they don't have any power, and without power, they'll never have respect. If this white man, who is afraid of the power of the black women he's encountered, can then make the black man yield to his authority, what does that say about black men who allow themselves to be bullied and degraded by white men?